March 15, 1985, 1:17 a.m. The Rainbow Bar and Grill, West Hollywood. The music industry's most exclusive after-party was in full swing following the American Music Awards, when 26-year-old Madonna Louise Ciccone, riding high on the success of Like a Virgin, made a statement that would echo through entertainment history. Standing before a crowd of industry heavyweights, she pointed across the room at 26-year-old Prince Rogers Nelson and declared loudly, "Everyone says Prince is the better musician. I say that's just because no one's ever given me the chance to prove otherwise. Right here, right now, let's settle this once and for all." The room fell silent. Prince, who had been quietly observing from a corner table, looked up with that enigmatic smile that had become his trademark. What happened in the next 30 seconds didn't just end the challenge. It redefined what everyone in that room understood about musical genius, humbling one of pop music's most confident stars, and proving that some artists exist on a level that transcends competition. If you believe that true artistry speaks for itself, and that some moments reveal the difference between talent and transcendence, please subscribe to witness the night when pop royalty discovered that there are levels to this game that can't be reached through ambition alone. The 1985 American Music Awards had been a night of celebration for both Madonna and Prince. Madonna had won Favorite Pop/Rock Female Artist, cementing her status as the new queen of pop music. Her Like a Virgin album was dominating the charts, and her provocative image was capturing headlines worldwide. At 26, she was fearless, ambitious, and absolutely convinced that she could compete with anyone in the music industry. Prince had won Favorite Pop/Rock Male Artist, adding another award to his growing collection of accolades. Purple Rain was still dominating both the music and film worlds, establishing Prince as one of the most innovative artists of the decade. But Prince had always been different from other pop stars. More mysterious, more musically complex, more interested in pushing boundaries than following trends. The Rainbow Bar and Grill after-party was legendary in industry circles. Located on the Sunset Strip, it was where record executives, artists, and music journalists gathered to celebrate, network, and occasionally settle scores. The venue was small enough that everyone could see everyone else, creating an intimate atmosphere where egos often collided. Madonna arrived at the party around midnight, surrounded by her usual entourage of managers, publicists, and hangers-on. She was in a celebratory mood, energized by her award win and the positive response to her latest album. Madonna had always been competitive, driven by a need to prove herself in an industry that often underestimated young female artists. Prince arrived 30 minutes later, as was his custom. He preferred to enter events after the initial rush, allowing him to observe the room's dynamics before engaging. Prince was accompanied only by his bodyguard and his longtime friend Andre Simone. He found a quiet corner table where he could watch the party unfold without becoming the center of attention. The two artists moved in different circles at the party, representing different approaches to pop stardom. Madonna worked the room, engaging with industry executives, posing for photographers, and maintaining her image as pop music's most visible new star. Prince remained at his corner table, occasionally speaking with industry figures who approached him, but generally maintaining his reputation for mysterious aloofness. The confrontation began when music journalist Robert Hilburn made an offhand comment during a conversation with Madonna and several other partygoers. Hilburn had just returned from interviewing both artists for the Los Angeles Times and was sharing his observations about their different musical approaches. "Madonna's got the pop sensibility and the marketing genius," Hilburn said, "but Prince is just operating on a different level musically. The guy plays everything, writes everything, produces everything. It's like comparing a great pop artist to a musical force of nature." Madonna, who had been enjoying the attention and praise throughout the evening, bristled at the implication that she was somehow lesser than Prince as a musician. "That's exactly the kind of thinking that keeps women from being taken seriously in this industry," Madonna responded, her voice carrying across the nearby conversation groups. Everyone assumes that because Prince plays instruments and I focus on performance, he's somehow more musical than I am. But has anyone ever actually seen us go head-to-head? Has anyone ever given me the chance to prove that assumption wrong? The comment caught the attention of everyone within earshot, including several major record executives who recognized the potential entertainment value of such a confrontation. I mean, Madonna continued, her voice growing louder and more confident. Everyone talks about Prince like he's some kind of musical god. But I've been playing music since I was a kid. I write my own songs, I know my way around a studio, and I guarantee I can hold my own against anyone in this room, including the so-called genius over there. By now, the conversation had attracted a significant crowd. Word spread quickly through the small venue that Madonna was essentially challenging Prince to some kind of musical showdown. Prince, who had been quietly observing from his corner table, looked up with mild interest. He had heard Madonna's comments but showed no immediate reaction beyond his characteristic enigmatic smile. DJ Casey Kasem, who was hosting the party, approached Madonna with a mischievous grin. "You know there's a piano over there, right?" he said, pointing to an upright piano in the corner of the venue. "And I happen to know that Prince brought his guitar. If you're serious about settling this musical question." Madonna looked around the room, aware that everyone was watching her, waiting to see if she would back down from her own challenge. Her competitive nature wouldn't allow her to retreat. "Absolutely," Madonna declared. "Let's do this right now. Musical challenge, fair and square." The crowd parted as Madonna walked across the room toward Prince's table. Prince looked up at her approach, his expression calm and unreadable. "Prince," Madonna said loudly enough for the room to hear, "everyone says you're the better musician. I say that's just because no one's ever given me the chance to prove otherwise. Right here, right now, let's settle this once and for all." Before we reveal how Prince responded to this unprecedented challenge, and what happened when two of pop music's biggest stars faced off in an intimate venue, let me ask you, have you ever challenged someone who was operating on a completely different level than you realized? Share your thoughts in the comments, because what happened next became a masterclass in the difference between confidence and competence. Prince looked at Madonna for a long moment, then at the crowd of industry figures who had gathered to witness this unexpected confrontation. His response was characteristically calm and gracious. "Madonna, you're incredibly talented," Prince said quietly, his voice carrying clearly in the now silent venue. "I have a lot of respect for what you've accomplished. But are you sure you want to do this?" The question wasn't asked with arrogance or mockery. Prince genuinely seemed to be offering Madonna a graceful way to back down from a challenge that he understood better than she did. But Madonna was committed now, energized by the attention and convinced that she could prove her musical abilities matched her commercial success. "I'm absolutely sure," Madonna replied. "Pick the terms. Your instrument, my instrument, whatever you want. Let's see what the purple one is really made of." Prince stood up slowly, walked to where his guitar case was resting, and removed a simple acoustic guitar. The choice surprised everyone. Given his reputation for elaborate electric performances, most expected him to opt for something more dramatic. "Okay," Prince said. "How about this? We each play something original for 30 seconds. Just music, no lyrics. Let the music speak for itself." Madonna nodded confidently and moved to the piano. She had studied piano as a child and had written several of her songs at the keyboard. She felt comfortable with the instrument and was certain she could hold her own in a brief musical exchange. "Ladies first," Prince said with a slight smile. Madonna sat at the piano and began playing an up-tempo melody that showcased her pop sensibilities. It was catchy, well-structured, and demonstrated solid technical competence. She played for exactly 30 seconds, ending with a flourish that drew polite applause from the crowd. "Not bad," Madonna said, standing up from the piano with evident satisfaction. "Your turn." Prince walked to the piano. He had set aside his guitar and was apparently planning to use the same instrument Madonna had just played. This surprised everyone, including Madonna, who had expected Prince to use his guitar to show off different musical territory. "Same instrument," Prince explained. "Keeps it fair." Prince sat at the piano, placed his hands on the keys, and what happened next redefined everyone's understanding of what was possible on that instrument. Prince began with a classical passage that demonstrated perfect technique and deep musical understanding. But after 8 seconds, he seamlessly transitioned into a jazz improvisation that showed his mastery of complex harmonic structures. At the 15-second mark, he shifted into a blues progression that made the piano sound like it was crying. For the final 7 seconds, Prince played a melody so beautiful and emotionally complex that several people in the audience literally gasped. But the most stunning aspect wasn't just the technical brilliance or the emotional depth. It was the fact that Prince had somehow incorporated fragments of Madonna's melody into his improvisation, taking her 30-second composition and weaving it into something infinitely more sophisticated and profound. When Prince finished, the room was completely silent for nearly 10 seconds. No one applauded because everyone was still processing what they had just witnessed. Madonna stood frozen next to the piano, her confident expression replaced by something approaching awe. She had entered the challenge expecting to prove her musical equality with Prince. Instead, she had discovered that they weren't just playing different games. They were playing in different universes. Madonna began, then stopped, apparently unable to find words. Prince stood up from the piano, his expression as calm and unreadable as always. "Madonna, you're a fantastic performer and a smart businesswoman," he said quietly. "But this isn't about competition. Music isn't about beating other people. It's about touching something that can't be taught or bought or forced. You've got incredible instincts for connecting with audiences. That's a gift. But it's a different gift." Madonna nodded slowly, the fight completely gone out of her. I had no idea," she said quietly. "I thought I understood what musical talent meant. But what you just did, that was something else entirely." The room remained silent, everyone understanding that they had witnessed something unprecedented, not just Prince's musical demonstration, but Madonna's graceful acknowledgment of his superiority. Prince extended his hand to Madonna. "You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You're Madonna, that's enough." Madonna shook his hand, then did something that surprised everyone in the room. She hugged Prince. "Thank you for the lesson," she whispered, loud enough for nearby observers to hear. "I won't forget it." What happened after that 30-second musical exchange became legend in entertainment industry circles. Madonna's challenge had lasted exactly as long as Prince's response, but the impact echoed for decades. Industry figures who witnessed the event later described it as the moment they truly understood the difference between pop stardom and musical genius. Madonna had all the qualities of a superstar: charisma, ambition, business acumen, and considerable talent. But Prince possessed something that couldn't be acquired through effort or training: a direct connection to musical truth that transcended commercial considerations. Robert Hilburn's article about the evening, published in the Los Angeles Times a week later, became one of the most quoted pieces in music journalism history. "What happened at the Rainbow wasn't a battle," Hilburn wrote. "It was a revelation. Madonna discovered that there are levels of artistry that exist beyond ambition. And Prince demonstrated why some musicians are remembered as entertainers, while others are remembered as forces of nature." Madonna never spoke publicly about the specific details of that night, but her approach to music noticeably evolved in the years that followed. Her subsequent albums showed increased musical sophistication and a willingness to experiment with more complex arrangements and production techniques. More importantly, Madonna became one of Prince's most vocal supporters within the industry. When Prince fought for artist rights and creative control throughout the 1990s, Madonna was among the high-profile artists who supported his positions publicly. In a 1987 interview with Rolling Stone, Madonna was asked about Prince's musical abilities. Her response became one of the most quoted assessments of Prince's talent by a peer artist. "Prince operates on a level that most of us can only aspire to reach. He doesn't just play music. He channels it directly from some source that the rest of us don't have access to. I learned that lesson personally, and it made me a better artist." When Prince passed away in 2016, Madonna's tribute was deeply personal and notably humble. In 1985, I thought I understood what musical genius looked like. Prince taught me that real genius is like lightning. You can see its power, but you can't capture it or compete with it. You can only be grateful that you were close enough to witness it. The Rainbow Bar and Grill incident became a defining moment for both artists, but for different reasons. For Madonna, it was a lesson in humility that ultimately made her a more thoughtful and adventurous artist. For Prince, it was confirmation of what many already suspected, that his musical gifts existed on a plane that few artists could even comprehend, let alone challenge. DJ Casey Kasem, who had facilitated the original challenge, later reflected on the evening's significance. "I've seen a lot of musical moments in my career, but nothing like that night." Madonna came in thinking she was challenging Prince to a duel. She ended up receiving a masterclass in what musical transcendence actually looks like. The 30 seconds of music that Prince played that night were never officially recorded, but everyone who witnessed them agreed on one thing. It wasn't just a display of technical skill or musical knowledge. It was a demonstration of artistic communication that operated beyond normal human limitations. Prince Rogers Nelson didn't just win a challenge that night. He redefined what winning meant. He showed that true musical mastery isn't about defeating others. It's about touching something so profound that competition becomes irrelevant. Madonna learned that there are artists, and then there are forces of nature. She discovered that real genius doesn't need to prove itself through challenges, because its existence is self-evident to anyone with the wisdom to recognize it. If this story reminds you that the greatest artists are those who transform competition into education, and that true mastery is measured not by what you can defeat, but by what you can reveal, please subscribe to keep these stories alive. Because the world needs more examples of how genius, when expressed with grace, doesn't diminish others, it elevates everyone who witnesses it.